Imagine the sharp sting of fluorescent lights piercing your eyes, the kind that make everything feel too exposed, too raw. That's how it started for Mia Thompson, a poised black woman in her mid-30s, as she settled into her first-class seat on Japan Airlines Flight 456 from Tokyo's Narita Airport to Osaka. The cabin air was crisp, laced with that sterile scent of recycled oxygen, and faint hints of green tea from the pre-boarding lounge. But before she could even fasten her seatbelt, a flight attendant's voice sliced through the hum of boarding passengers like a knife. "Excuse me, miss, but this seat is reserved for first-class passengers only. You'll need to show me your boarding pass, your real one." The words hung in the air, heavy with accusation, and Mia felt the first prick of heat rising in her cheeks, her heart thudding against her ribs like it was trying to escape. It wasn't just the words. It was the way the attendant, a young man with a neatly pressed uniform and a name tag reading Hiroshi, leaned in too close, his eyes narrowing as if she were some intruder in a sacred space. You know that feeling, right? When the world suddenly shrinks around you and every eye seems to turn your way? Mia did. She was no stranger to those subtle shifts in the atmosphere, the way conversations hush, the quick glances that linger just a second too long. But here, on this flight, it was about to escalate in ways she never anticipated. Let me take you back a bit, so you can really feel what she was up against. Mia had arrived in Tokyo 3 days earlier, her suitcase packed with the weight of ambition and a touch of homesickness. Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, she'd clawed her way up from a modest upbringing, her mom a schoolteacher, her dad a mechanic who always told her, "The sky's not the limit, it's just the view." She'd turned that mantra into reality, earning scholarships to MIT, then building Technova, a cutting-edge AI firm specializing in aviation software. Now, at 35, she was the CEO, jetting across the globe to seal deals that could revolutionize air travel. This trip to Japan was pivotal, a partnership with Japan Airlines to integrate her company's AI navigation systems, potentially worth millions. She'd booked first class not for luxury, but for the quiet space to review her notes one last time before the big meeting in Osaka. Narita Airport had been a whirlwind that morning. Picture it. The sprawling terminals buzzing with efficiency, travelers in sleek business attire weaving through security lines like a well-oiled machine. The air carried the aroma of fresh sushi from conveyor belt restaurants, and the faint chime of announcements in melodic Japanese echoed in English for the internationals. Mia navigated it all with her usual grace, her natural coils pulled into a neat bun, her tailored navy suit hugging her athletic frame, a simple gold necklace glinting under the lights. She grabbed a matcha latte from a cafe, savoring the earthy bitterness as she people-watched. Families with excited kids, salarymen buried in their phones, tourists snapping selfies by the massive windows overlooking the tarmac. It was orderly, almost serene, a far cry from the chaos of Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson. But even there, she caught a few curious stares. Japan wasn't exactly diverse, and as a black woman traveling solo, she stood out. Still, she'd brushed it off. She'd faced worse in boardrooms back home. Boarding the plane felt routine at first. The Japan Airlines A350-900 gleamed on the runway, its white fuselage accented with the iconic red crane logo, promising a smooth, hour-long hop to Osaka. Mia scanned her digital boarding pass at the gate, the agent nodding politely without a second glance. She stepped onto the jet bridge, the cool air conditioning a relief from Tokyo's humid October warmth. The first-class cabin welcomed her like a private sanctuary. Just 12 seats in a 2-2-2 layout, each enveloped in large shells for privacy, with high-quality leather that felt like sinking into a cloud. No overhead bins cluttered the space, making it feel airy and expansive. Mia chose seat 1A by the window, stowing her carry-on in the ample side storage, and eased into the seat. The cushion molded to her body, soft yet supportive, with a center divider ensuring seclusion from her neighbor. She pulled out her tablet, ready to dive into her presentation slides, the soft ambient lighting casting a warm glow. That's when Hiroshi approached. At first it was subtle, a lingering look as he passed by during pre-flight checks. Mia noticed it, that prickly sensation on the back of her neck, but she focused on her screen. Then he circled back, his footsteps deliberate on the carpeted aisle. "Ma'am," he said, his English clipped and formal. "May I see your boarding pass again? There seems to be a discrepancy." Mia looked up, meeting his gaze. His face was impassive, but his eyes flicked over her, her skin, her hair, her presence in this premium space. She handed over her phone, the QR code glowing clearly. First class, seat 1A, paid in full. "It's all there," she said calmly, her voice steady despite the knot forming in her stomach. Hiroshi scanned it with his device, his brow furrowing dramatically. "This doesn't match our records. Did you upgrade at the last minute? We have strict policies." The words were polite on the surface, but the undertone hit Mia like a cold draft. She felt her pulse quicken. Why the doubt? She'd flown first class countless times. This wasn't new. But here, in this cabin filled with mostly Japanese businessmen and a few international executives, she sensed the shift. A passenger across the aisle, an older man in a suit, glanced over curiously, then whispered something to his companion. Subtle looks. That's how it always starts, isn't it? Mia took a deep breath, channeling the resilience she'd built over years of being the only one in the room. "I booked this weeks ago through your app. Check again," she suggested, keeping her tone even. Hiroshi hesitated, then tapped his radio, murmuring in Japanese. The cabin was filling up now, the engines whining faintly as ground crew prepared for pushback. 10 minutes to departure, the overhead announcement chimed. But Hiroshi wasn't done. He returned with a female colleague, her name tag reading Aiko. They huddled by Mia's seat, speaking rapidly in Japanese, their voices low but audible enough for nearby passengers to perk up. Aiko leaned in, her smile tight. "Miss, perhaps there's a mistake. People, like you, usually prefer economy for short flights. Are you sure this is your ticket?" The phrase "people like you" landed like a slap, explicit and cutting. Mia's mind raced. Like me? Black? Foreign? Successful? She felt the anger bubble up, hot and familiar, but she swallowed it, replying firmly, "Yes, it's mine. Verified at the gate." Now the whispers spread. The businessman across the way pointed subtly, his companion nodding. A young woman a row back pulled out her phone, angling it toward Mia as if capturing the scene. Public mockery was brewing, the kind that turns a personal affront into a spectacle. Hiroshi's voice rose slightly, drawing more attention. "If you can't provide proper identification, we'll have to ask you to move. This is first class, reserved for our premium guests." The implications stung. You don't belong. Mia's hands trembled slightly as she pulled out her passport and credit card, the black Amex Centurion she'd earned through sheer grit. "Here, run it through your system." But Aiko shook her head, her expression hardening. "That's not sufficient. We've had issues with fraudulent bookings." The word fraudulent echoed in Mia's ears, a direct insult that shocked her to her core. Passengers were openly staring now, some chuckling softly, others murmuring in agreement. The young woman with the phone was filming, her screen lighting up with live stream notifications. Comments popped up. "What's she doing in first class?" "Probably a scam." The tension built like a storm, subtle looks evolving into verbal barbs. Mia's inner thoughts swirled in turmoil. Why me? She'd wondered this before, in meetings where her ideas were dismissed, in stores where security tailed her. But here, trapped in this metal tube, it felt amplified. Fear crept in. What if they call security? What if this derails my meeting? Yet, beneath it, her dignity held firm, a quiet resilience forged from ancestors who endured far worse. She glanced at her watch. 8 minutes to departure. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, welcoming everyone in smooth English, oblivious to the drama unfolding. Hiroshi radioed again, this time louder. "We need assistance in first class. Possible unauthorized passenger." The words sent a ripple through the cabin. More phones out, more laughter trickling like poison. A passenger behind her whispered loudly, "She looks out of place. Send her back." The escalation hit its next level. Public mockery turning overt. Aiko reached for Mia's arm, not quite touching but hovering threateningly. "Please stand up. We'll sort this at the gate." Mia stayed seated, her voice rising just enough to assert herself. "I'm not moving. This is my seat." The defiance sparked more reactions. A scoff from the businessman, a giggle from a group of tourists. Hiroshi's face flushed and he stepped closer, his hand brushing her shoulder in a symbolic shove. "Don't make this difficult. We know how these things go." The contact sent a jolt through Mia, physical aggression, however mild, crossing a line. Her heart pounded, anger mixing with a flash of vulnerability. She thought of her team back home, counting on her, of her mom, who'd be heartbroken to hear this. As the minutes ticked down, 7 now, the cabin door remained open, ground staff peering in. Mia's phone buzzed, a text from her legal team at Technova. "Everything ready if needed?" She checked it discreetly, her mind racing. The whispers grew to open commentary. "Why is she arguing? Just leave." Laughter bubbled up, pointing fingers jabbing the air. Total humiliation loomed, the crowd's judgment pressing like a weight. But Mia held her ground, her eyes locking on Hiroshi's, a silent promise that this wasn't over. The engines revved louder, the plane inching back from the gate, but the unresolved standoff hung thick in the air, begging for what came next. The confrontation intensified as security footsteps echoed from the jet bridge, their boots clanging like a countdown. Mia felt the cabin's eyes boring into her, the live streams capturing every flinch, every defiant lift of her chin. Hiroshi crossed his arms, triumphant. "Officers are here. This ends now." Mia's breath caught, fear and fury warring inside her. She wasn't just fighting for a seat. She was battling the invisible barriers that had shadowed her life. 6 minutes left. Her finger hovered over her phone's contacts, ready to dial the one number that could change everything. But as the security officers boarded, their faces stern under the cabin lights, Mia wondered if her resilience would be enough, or if this was the moment it all unraveled. Let's dive deeper into that moment. As the security officers stepped in, the cabin fell into a hushed anticipation, the air thick with tension. The first officer, a burly man with a badge gleaming under the lights, scanned the scene, his eyes landing on Mia. "Ma'am, we've been called for a disturbance. Please come with us." His tone was authoritative, laced with assumption. Mia's mind flashed to headlines she'd seen. Black travelers profiled, removed, their stories viral but rarely just. She felt the sting of tears pricking her eyes but blinked them back. No, she wouldn't give them that. Instead, she straightened her spine, her voice clear. "There's no disturbance. I'm in my assigned seat with a valid ticket." The officer exchanged glances with Hiroshi, who nodded vigorously. "She's refusing to cooperate. Possible fraud." The word fraud again, cutting like glass. Now the passengers were fully engaged, phones held high, the young woman's live stream hitting thousands of views. Comments scrolled. "This is crazy." Racist much? But in the moment, it felt like the world was against her. Aiko snatched Mia's tablet from the side table, a symbolic theft of her belongings, flipping through it as if searching for evidence. "See? Nothing here proves anything." Mia's anger surged, but she channeled it into calm words. "That's my property. Give it back." The physical act, belongings taken, escalated the humiliation. Her personal space violated. The businessman chuckled openly. About time. I paid for peace. Laughter rippled, fingers pointing like arrows. Mia's inner voice screamed, "How dare they?" But outwardly, she remained composed, her resilience a shield. 5 minutes to departure. The captain emerged from the cockpit, his uniform crisp, face etched with annoyance. "What's the holdup? We need to push back." Hiroshi explained quickly, his voice dripping with contempt. "This woman claims first class, but look at her. Does she fit?" The explicit scorn about her appearance shocked even some passengers, a few shifting uncomfortably. Mia's fear peaked, physical force imminent. But a brief moment of humanity flickered. The young Japanese passenger who'd glanced sympathetically earlier whispered to her friend, "This isn't right." It was a small spark in the darkness, a reminder that not everyone was lost to bias. The captain sighed, addressing Mia. "Ma'am, to avoid delay, please deplane. We can resolve this on the ground." Mia shook her head, her voice firm. "No, I belong here." The standoff hung, the engines growling impatiently. 4 minutes. Her phone buzzed again, a reminder from her calendar. Osaka meeting, seal the deal. It fueled her determination. As the security officer reached for her arm, a gentle but firm shove to urge her up, Mia's resolve hardened. This was total humiliation, the crowd's mockery, the physical push, the whispers turning to jeers. But deep down, she knew her secret power was about to turn the tide. The cabin door began to close, the plane ready to taxi, but the drama was far from over. Expanding further, let's explore Mia's backstory more to build empathy. Growing up in Atlanta, Mia had always been the smart kid in class, but teachers often doubted her capabilities. "Are you sure you did this yourself?" they'd ask, their eyes skeptical. It lit a fire in her, pushing her to excel. At MIT, she was one of few black women in her program, facing isolation but forming bonds with mentors who saw her potential. Technova was her baby, started in a garage, now a multi-million-dollar company. This JL partnership was her biggest yet, a chance to make aviation safer with AI that predicted turbulence and optimized routes. She couldn't let this derail her. Back in the cabin, the escalation continued. The security officer's hand landed on her shoulder, shoving lightly but enough to make her jolt. "Ma'am, don't resist." The word resist echoed, implying criminality. Passengers gasped, some laughing nervously. Mia's fear turned to rage. How had a simple flight become this? Her culture, her skin, reduced to suspicion. 3 minutes. Hiroshi smirked, Aiko handing back the tablet with a toss that nearly missed the seat. Belongings mishandled, dignity stripped. Mia glanced out the window, the tarmac blurring as the plane moved slightly. Tokyo's skyline faded in the distance, a metaphor for how far she'd come, only to be pulled back. But her phone's text from the legal team, ready to engage, gave her a glimmer. 2 minutes. The captain radioed the tower, "Delay due to passenger issue." The announcement boomed, amplifying the humiliation. Whispers became shouts. "Hurry up!" Laughter swelled. Mia closed her eyes briefly, drawing on her inner strength, the resilience that had gotten her here. As the security officer pulled out zip ties, threatening handcuffs, the cliffhanger loomed, her finger on the phone, ready to call in the big guns. The zip ties snapped open with a plastic click, the sound cutting through the cabin like a threat. Mia's stomach twisted, memories flooding of news stories where innocent people were restrained, their lives altered. "Please," she said, her voice cracking for the first time. "This is unnecessary." The officer hesitated, but Hiroshi urged, "She's been aggressive." Aggressive? For sitting? The lie fueled the crowd's frenzy, more pointing, more filming. The young woman's stream, now at 10,000 views, comments a mix of outrage and support. Mia's resilience shone through. She straightened, meeting the officer's eyes. "You'll regret this." 1 minute to departure. The engines roared, the plane vibrating. Mia's heart matched the rhythm, her mind a whirlwind of anger, fear, and hope. The captain returned to the cockpit, leaving the mess to the crew. As the officer moved to cuff her, Mia's phone rang, a distinctive tone from her executive line. The sound silenced the cabin momentarily, all eyes on her. She looked at the screen. "JL partner contact." Her unresolved thought, "It's time." The door sealed with a thud, the plane taxing, but the confrontation was just beginning to unravel in ways no one expected. The ring cut through the cabin like a lifeline in a storm, sharp and insistent, pulling every eye toward Mia's phone. She let it vibrate for a beat, her finger poised over the screen, feeling the weight of the moment. The security officer's hand froze mid-reach for the zip ties, his grip loosening just enough for Mia to sense a shift in the air. Hiroshi's smug expression faltered, Aiko stepping back involuntarily as if the sound alone challenged their authority. The engines rumbled beneath them, the plane inching forward on the tarmac, but departure felt distant now, suspended in this bubble of tension. Mia glanced at the caller ID again. JL Chairman. And a quiet resolve settled over her. This wasn't just a call. It was her anchor in the chaos. But she didn't answer yet. No, she let it ring one more time, drawing out the suspense, making them wait just as they'd made her suffer. You can imagine the electricity in that cabin, right? The kind that makes your skin prickle, where every second stretches like an eternity. Mia's heart raced, but she kept her face neutral, drawing on that deep well of resilience she'd tapped so many times before. The young woman filming leaned in closer, her live stream exploding with comments. "Who's calling? This is getting wild." Views climbed past 20,000 now, the viral storm building outside this confined space. The captain's voice crackled over the radio from the cockpit. "Ground control, hold pushback. We have a situation." But the plane kept moving slowly, the vibration humming through the seats like a warning. Mia's mind flashed back to the start of this nightmare. The subtle stares at the airport, the way the gate agent had double-checked her ID longer than others. It was all connected, a thread of bias weaving through her day, tightening now into this knot of confrontation. The security officer, Tanaka, his badge glinting under the harsh cabin lights, cleared his throat, his stern facade cracking. "Ma'am, turn that off. You're interfering with operations." His words were meant to command, but they came out shaky, undercut by the persistent ring. Mia met his eyes, her voice steady despite the storm inside. "This call might resolve everything. Give me a moment." Tanaka hesitated, glancing at Hiroshi, who nodded furiously. "No! She's stalling! Cuff her now!" The escalation hit like a wave. Aiko snatched at Mia's phone, her fingers brushing Mia's hand in a rough grab, but Mia pulled back just in time, the device slipping into her lap. That physical aggression, that violation of her space, sent a fresh surge of anger through her. How dare they touch her things, treat her like a criminal? She felt the cold metal of the phone against her palm, a small barrier against the onslaught. Passengers murmured louder now, the mockery swelling. The businessman across the aisle scoffed. "Just drag her out already. We're all waiting because of this." His companion nodded, whispering loudly enough for Mia to hear. "She probably bought a fake ticket online. Look at her. Doesn't fit the profile." The words stung, explicit and cutting, targeting her skin, her presence. Mia's mind reeled. Profile? As if success had a color. Fear gnawed at her edges. What if they really cuff her? What if this goes viral in the worst way, tarnishing her reputation before the Osaka meeting? But beneath it, her dignity burned bright, a resilient flame refusing to flicker out. She thought of her grandmother's stories, tales of enduring Jim Crow with head held high. "They can bend you, But don't let them break you, she'd say. Mia clung to that, her fingers trembling slightly as she finally swiped to answer, but on speaker, letting the voice fill the cabin. Hello, Mia? This is Chairman Kato from Japan Airlines headquarters. We've been monitoring the situation via social media alerts. Are you all right? The voice was calm, authoritative, laced with concern. A hush fell over the cabin, the engine's whine the only sound for a split second. Mia's breath caught. Here was the hint of her power, but she played it close, not revealing everything yet. Chairman, I'm being accused of fraud and threatened with removal. Security is here. Kato's tone sharpened. Unacceptable. Put the captain on. But before Mia could respond, Tanaka lunged forward, shoving her shoulder harder this time, his hand landing with a thud that made her wince. Hang up! This is airline property now. The direct attack shocked her, pain shooting through her arm. But it was the symbolism, the manhandling in front of everyone, that humiliated her most. She gasped softly, the shove jarring her against the seat, her suit wrinkling under the force. The cabin erupted. Passengers pointed, laughter bubbling up again, cruel and unchecked. See? She's resisting, someone shouted from the back. The young woman's stream hit 30,000 views, comments flooding. This is discrimination! Call the news! But in the moment, it felt like isolation, the crowd's whispers turning to jeers. Aiko joined in, blocking Mia's path with her body, her face twisted in scorn. You think a phone call changes anything? People like you always try tricks. The insult about her people landed like a gut punch, explicit contempt that made Mia's blood boil. Inner turmoil raged. Anger at the injustice, fear of escalation, but resilience pushing her to stay composed. She wouldn't scream. That would play into their narrative. Instead, she said evenly, "This call is from your boss. Listen." She held the phone higher, the speaker crackling with Kato's impatience. I repeat, who is handling this? This is a priority matter. Kato's voice boomed again. Who is this? Identify yourself. Tanaka froze, his hand still on Mia's shoulder, but he released it slowly, the shove lingering as a bruise on her skin and spirit. The captain burst from the cockpit, his face flushed. What's going on? He grabbed the phone from Mia, another symbolic theft, yanking it, roughly, and listened. His expression shifted from annoyance to pale shock. Chairman, yes, sir. There's a misunderstanding. He handed the phone back to Mia, but not before glaring at her, as if she were the problem. The tension ratcheted up. The plane stopped moving, ground control radioing confusion. 5 minutes delayed now, the clock ticking like a bomb. Mia rubbed her shoulder subtly, the pain a constant reminder of the aggression, her mind racing through scenarios. Lawsuits, media fallout, but also the bigger picture. How many others had endured this silently? But Hiroshi wasn't backing down. He stepped forward, his voice rising in hostility. This is a setup. She's not who she says. He turned to the passengers, rallying them. Right? She doesn't belong here. The public mockery intensified, fingers jabbing, laughter echoing off the walls, phones capturing every angle. A middle-aged woman, a row back, threw a balled-up napkin at Mia, a symbolic attack that hit her leg, harmless but degrading. Go to economy where you fit. The words cut deep, scorn about her culture, her blackness in this space. Mia's fear spiked. What if the crowd turns physical? Her arm throbbed from the shove, her dignity frayed. Yet, a brief moment of solidarity pierced the darkness. The young Japanese passenger who'd whispered earlier stood up slightly, saying softly, Stop this. It's wrong. Her voice was drowned out by jeers, but it gave Mia a spark of hope, a reminder that humanity lingered amid the hate. The young woman hesitated, then sat back down, her face conflicted, offering Mia a small nod that felt like a lifeline in the storm. The captain, phone in hand, conferred with Kato quietly, but snippets leaked. Important partner. Technova CEO. The hint of Mia's true background slipped out, mysterious and teasing, but not fully revealed. Passengers strained to hear, the live stream buzzing with speculation. Tanaka, emboldened by the crowd, grabbed Mia's wrist this time, twisting it slightly in a manhandling move. Until we verify, you're detained. The pain was sharp, the unfair handcuff threat looming as he dangled the zip ties. Mia's inner world fractured, rage at the injustice, terror of being restrained unjustly, but her resilience held like steel. She yanked her hand free, her voice cutting through. You'll regret that. The confrontation peaked, danger palpable. She felt the twist in her wrist, a burning ache that mirrored the burn in her chest, her thoughts spiraling. This isn't just about me. It's about every black traveler who's been profiled, every woman dismissed. As the delay stretched to 8 minutes, the captain hung up, his face ashen. Everyone, stand down. This passenger is verified. But Hiroshi rebelled, shouting, No! She's lying! He lunged, hitching a cup of water from the service cart and splashing it toward Mia. A direct, shocking attack that soaked her suit, cold liquid dripping down her face. The cabin gasped, then laughed, the total humiliation complete. Mockery, physical aggression, belongings symbolically defiled. Water stung her eyes, but Mia wiped it away, her dignity intact amid the chaos. Her phone buzzed with another text. Legal en route. Hold. The mysterious ally hinted at more power. She blinked back the moisture, tasting the bitterness on her lips, her ruined suit clinging uncomfortably, but it fueled her fire. How many times had she been splashed, metaphorically, ideas dismissed, opportunities denied? This was the literal manifestation, and it hardened her resolve. The plane shuddered as brakes engaged fully, stopping dead on the taxiway. The captain's radio crackled urgently. Return to gate. Emergency protocol. Passengers groaned, but eyes locked on Mia. Tanaka stepped closer, zip ties ready, his voice low and threatening. One more move, and you're cuffed. Mia's heart pounded, the cliffhanger hanging in the air, the imminent confrontation, the shocking discovery teetering on the edge. As the plane reversed course, silence descended, broken only by the whine of engines and the pounding of her pulse, everything poised for the twist that would shatter it all. But the silence didn't last. As the plane crept back toward the gate, the passengers' restlessness boiled over into more overt hostility. The businessman stood up, pointing accusingly at Mia. This is ridiculous. Because of her, I'm missing my connection. Who does she think she is? His words encouraged others, a chorus of agreements rippling through the cabin like a wave. Yeah, get her off! She's causing all this drama! The mockery turned vicious, with someone in the back yelling, Foreigners like you ruin everything! The explicit racism hit Mia like another splash of water, cold and unrelenting. She felt exposed, her wet clothes chilling her skin, the laughter echoing in her ears. Inner turmoil peaked. Anger at the crowd's blindness, fear that this could escalate to something worse, maybe even a mob mentality in this confined space. Aiko, sensing the shift, egged it on subtly, whispering to nearby passengers, We've dealt with types like this before. Always trouble. Her scornful comments about Mia's unprofessional appearance spread like wildfire, passengers nodding and adding their own barbs. Look at her hair. Doesn't belong in first class. The insults zeroed in on her natural coils, her dark skin, turning personal and cutting. Mia's resilience wavered for a moment. She hugged her arms around herself, the wet fabric sticking, a physical reminder of her vulnerability. but she breathed deeply, recalling a mentor's advice. In the face of storm, be the eye, calm and unmovable. It steadied her, even as Tanaka hovered, his zip ties clicking menacingly. The young passenger who'd spoken up earlier tried again, her voice louder this time. "Everyone, calm down. This isn't fair." A few heads turned, some passengers pausing their jeers, offering a brief contrast, a glimmer of solidarity amid the hostility. One older gentleman nodded in agreement, murmuring, "Let the authorities handle it properly." It wasn't much, but it broke the unanimous front, giving Mia a moment to regroup. Her phone buzzed once more. "Board alerted. Incoming directive." The hint of her hidden status deepened, a clue that something bigger was at play. But Hiroshi, undeterred, grabbed Mia's carry-on bag from the storage, rifling through it symbolically. Another attack on her belongings, papers scattering slightly. "See? Nothing important here." The violation stung, her personal notes on the Technova deal exposed briefly. Mia snatched the bag back, her voice firm despite the tremble. "That's mine. Stop." The physical tug-of-war drew more laughter, the crowd's mockery reaching a fever pitch. 10 minutes delayed now, announcements blaring about the return to gate. The captain re-emerged, barking orders. "Security, secure the area." Tanaka advanced, shoving Mia's seat divider aside, his body blocking her in. The manhandling intensified, his presence oppressive, the threat of cuffs imminent. Mia's fear crested, visions of being dragged off in handcuffs, headlines screaming CEO arrested, but her dignity held. She locked eyes with the young passenger, a silent thank you for the small act of kindness. As the gate came into view through the window, ground staff swarming, the tension coiled tighter. Hiroshi leaned in close, his breath hot on Mia's ear. "You won't get away with this." His final insult, whispered but cutting, about her kind, not deserving luxury. Mia's rage simmered, but she smiled faintly. Resilience in action. The plane docked with a jolt, the door hissing open. More security boarded, the confrontation looming larger. Mia's phone lit up with Kato's call again, the shocking discovery inches away. The cabin fell into an uneasy silence, the air thick with anticipation, as if everyone sensed the tide was about to turn, but not before one last push into total humiliation. The new security team, led by a stern woman with a radio, assessed the scene quickly. "What's the status?" Tanaka reported, embellishing. "Disruptive passenger resisting removal." The woman nodded, turning to Mia. "Ma'am, step out now." But as Mia stood, voluntarily, to de-escalate, Hiroshi shoved her from behind, a rough push that nearly toppled her into the aisle. The physical aggression peaked, pain flaring in her back, the crowd erupting in cheers and laughter. "Finally! About time!" Mia stumbled but caught herself, her wetsuit dripping, dignity battered but unbroken. In that moment, her inner strength shone, fear giving way to quiet power. The young passenger gasped, filming it all, her stream now at 50,000 views. The lead security woman hesitated, sensing something off. "Easy there." But the damage was done. Mia's humiliation was complete, the attacks layering on, verbal, physical, symbolic. As they escorted her toward the door, zip ties at the ready, Mia's phone rang once more. The cliffhanger crystallized. The imminent revelation, the sudden silence as Kato's voice demanded, "Stop everything now." The gate loomed, the turning point silent and electric. The lead security woman's hand hovered near Mia's arm, ready to guide, or force, her off the plane, but the ringing phone shattered the fragile tension like glass underfoot. Mia answered on speaker again, her voice steady despite the ache in her wrist and the chill of her soaked suit clinging to her skin. "Chairman Kato, they're trying to remove me now." Kato's response was immediate, booming through the cabin with the weight of authority. Stop this instantly. Mia Thompson is not just a passenger. She's the CEO of Technova, our key strategic partner. Any further action against her will have severe consequences for everyone involved. The words hung in the recycled air, electrifying the space. Gasps rippled through the passengers, the young woman's live stream exploding with reactions. CEO? No way! This changes everything. Views surged past 60,000, the viral wave cresting into a tsunami. Hiroshi's face drained of color, his earlier smugness crumbling like wet paper. Aiko backed away, her hands trembling as she clutched the service cart. Tanaka froze, the zip ties dangling limply from his fingers, his authoritative stance deflating under the revelation. The captain, still in the aisle, stammered into his radio. "Ground control confirm, Technova CEO?" Confirmation crackled back almost immediately. "Affirmative. High priority VIP. Stand down all security." Mia stood there, water still dripping from her curls, her suit ruined but her posture unbowed. In that moment, the power dynamic flipped, like a storm cloud parting to reveal the sun. She wasn't just enduring anymore, she was reclaiming the narrative. Her inner relief washed over her, mixed with a quiet triumph. All those years of building Technova from a startup dream into a powerhouse, forging partnerships across oceans, this was the hidden strength she'd carried all along. The plane jolted as it fully docked at the gate, the door hissing open to admit a flurry of airport officials and JAL executives rushing aboard. Leading them was a sharply dressed woman in her 50s, her badge identifying her as Ms. Sato, JAL's Vice President of Operations. She strode directly to Mia, her expression a mix of apology and urgency. "Ms. Thompson, on behalf of Japan Airlines, I am deeply sorry for this ordeal. We've been alerted via the live feeds and our internal channels. This is unacceptable." Mia nodded, her voice calm but firm. "It is, but apologies alone won't fix the damage done here." Sato turned to the crew, her tone shifting to steel. "Hiroshi Aiko, report to HR immediately. You're suspended pending investigation." Hiroshi's defiance melted into panic. "But she didn't look like—" He trailed off, the unfinished sentence damning him further. Aiko burst into tears, covering her face, the weight of her actions crashing down. Tanaka and his team backed off, murmuring apologies as they holstered their equipment. "We were following protocol," Tanaka said weakly, but Sato cut him off. "Protocol doesn't include bias or assault. You'll be debriefed separately." The passengers watched in stunned silence, the earlier mockery evaporating into awkward shifts and averted eyes. The businessman who'd scoffed earlier cleared his throat, offering a hesitant "sorry" that Mia acknowledged with a nod but didn't accept outright. It was a small victory, seeing the antagonists face consequences, not just words but real accountability. Mia's dignity began to knit back together, thread by thread, as she watched Hiroshi and Aiko escorted off the plane, their uniforms suddenly looking too small for the shame they carried. But the resolution deepened beyond immediate repercussions. Sato pulled Mia aside to a quieter corner of the cabin, away from the prying phones. "Ms. Thompson, your partnership with us on the AI navigation system, it's transformative. We've invested millions because of your vision. This incident, it exposes flaws in our training." Mia, wiping the last traces of water from her face, met her gaze. "Flaws that hurt people. I've faced this before, but not everyone has the leverage I do." Sato nodded solemnly. "We're launching an immediate review. Mandatory anti-bias workshops for all staff starting next week. And we'd like your input, perhaps as a consultant on diversity protocols." It was more than Mia expected, a narrative payoff that turned her humiliation into a catalyst for change. She agreed, feeling a swell of hope amid the exhaustion. This wasn't just about her. It was about the next black traveler, the next outsider in a first-class seat. As the crew was replaced, fresh attendants boarding with nervous efficiency, the passengers began to murmur apologies. The young woman who'd been filming approached tentatively, her phone lowered. I streamed it to expose what was happening. I'm sorry if it made things worse, but look, the comments are supporting you. Mia glanced at the screen. Messages of solidarity from around the world, hashtags like #JusticeForMia trending. It helped, Mia said softly, a brief moment of heartfelt connection. The older gentleman who'd nodded earlier offered his jacket to cover her wetsuit, a simple act of solidarity that warmed her more than the fabric. Even the middle-aged woman who'd thrown the napkin hung back, her face flushed with regret, whispering, "I was wrong." These small gestures balanced the earlier harshness, weaving threads of humanity into the fabric of the story. With the plane cleared for a delayed takeoff, Mia returned to her seat, the cabin now hushed with a mix of awe and reflection. The new captain addressed everyone over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the delay and any distress caused. Japan Airlines is committed to equality and respect for all passengers. Ms. Thompson, thank you for your patience." It was a public recognition, her name spoken with deference, reclaiming the dignity stripped from her earlier. As the engines roared back to life, Mia gazed out at the Tokyo runway, the city lights twinkling like distant stars. The ordeal had tested her, but it highlighted her strength, the quiet power of resilience that turned adversity into advocacy. The flight to Osaka passed in relative peace, the hum of the engines a soothing backdrop to Mia's thoughts. She dried off as best she could, reviewing her notes once more, but her mind wandered to the broader impact. Back in Atlanta, her team would hear about this. Her mom would worry, but be proud. And in the months that followed, as the story went viral, sparking discussions on social media and news outlets, JAL implemented the changes Sato promised. Bias training sessions featured anonymized accounts of the incident, with Mia consulting remotely. Complaints of discrimination dropped by 40% in the first quarter, a tangible win. Mia's Osaka meeting went flawlessly, the partnership sealed with even stronger terms, her experience forging an unbreakable bond. But the true emotional payoff came in quieter ways. A few weeks later, Mia received an email from the young passenger. "Your poise inspired me. I'm starting a blog on allyship in Japan." Hiroshi, in a surprising turn, reached out through HR for a mediated apology, admitting his cultural blind spots and committing to change. It wasn't perfect, regret didn't erase the pain, but it showed growth, a ripple of respect spreading outward. Mia's resilience had not only carried her through but lifted others, proving that dignity, once reclaimed, could illuminate paths for equality. As the plane touched down in Osaka, the city unfolding below like a promise of new beginnings, Mia stepped off with her head high. The incident was behind her, but its lessons lingered, a testament to strength in the face of injustice. If you've ever felt out of place, remember this. Hope isn't just wishing. It's the quiet force that turns humiliation into harmony. Share your stories in the comments below. What's a moment where you reclaimed your dignity? Like if this moved you, and subscribe for more tales of triumph and truth. Because in the end, respect isn't given. It's earned, one resilient step at a time. The emotional weight of the landing settled over Mia like a gentle fog rolling in from Osaka Bay. She gathered her things, the damp suit a lingering reminder, but her steps were sure as she exited the plane. Airport staff waited at the gate, whisking her to a private lounge for dry clothes and a hot tea, small comforts that felt like victories. Sato joined her there, outlining the next steps, a joint press release emphasizing JAL's commitment to inclusivity, with Mia's input shaping the narrative. This could set a standard for airlines worldwide, Sato said, her eyes earnest. Mia agreed but added, only if it's real change, not just words. Their conversation stretched, bridging cultural gaps, turning antagonists into reluctant allies through shared humanity. Back on the plane, as it prepared for its next leg without the original crew, passengers reflected in whispers. The businessman who'd mocked her earlier posted on social media, "Witnessed something eye-opening today. Assumptions can destroy. Time to check mine." The viral video, now at over 1 million views, sparked global conversations, forums debating bias in travel, activists calling for reforms. Mia's story became a beacon, not of victimhood, but of empowerment. In interviews that followed, carefully chosen to amplify the message, she spoke of resilience without bitterness. It's not about revenge. It's about reminding the world that everyone deserves a seat at the table. Months later, at Technova's headquarters, Mia hosted a workshop on navigating discrimination, drawing from her experience. Employees shared their own tales, fostering a culture of empathy. The JAL partnership flourished, their AI system reducing flight delays by 15%, but the real success was personal. Mia felt stronger, her hope renewed. She visited Japan again, this time greeted with respect at the airport. No stares, no doubts. A quiet solidarity had taken root, like cherry blossoms blooming after a harsh winter. And in the quiet evenings, Mia would reflect on that flight, the twists that tested her. It wasn't the revelation of her status that defined her. It was the unyielding dignity she held through the storm. Equality, she realized, blooms from such moments. Resilient hearts demanding respect, one story at a time.